Hi class. In this lecture, I'm going to talk a little bit about writing assignment number one and what an article summary paragraph is. So you might be thinking, I'm not sure what an article is. How am I supposed to write a summary on it? But that's sort of what I'll introduce in this video. So we'll talk about what an article is, and we'll talk about what assignment number one is and what you have to do for it. So let's get started. So what is an article? So when I'm talking about an article, that's just sort of another word that we used for a published academic essay. So when you write an essay as an academic person, if you're a professor or work in academia at the university or in a college, you're going to be writing essays and publishing or trying to get those essays published in academic magazines that are called journals. So every discipline, whether you're in English or nursing or business or whatever discipline you're following, there's going to be a journal or journals that publish in that field. So as an English professor, an instructor, when I try to write an essay about a book, I'm going to analyze the book and try to find a unique take or an analysis of that text. And then once I am happy with my essay and I want to get it published, I'll send it out to different journals that are, making requests or calls for papers. And if they agree to publish it, it goes through a rigorous process of peer review, which just means that other professionals in that field are taking a look at your essay and making sure that it's all accurate and the information is checked, and they determine that it's worthy of publishing. And it goes through various stages of editing, and they might ask you to make changes and whatnot, but eventually you'll get your essay published in one of these journals, and that's a successful trajectory of your essay writing. So your goal is to write essays that are worthy of publication, especially when you're working as an academic. For students, we want you to just get exposed to this style of writing. So it's probable that you maybe have never read a journal article from an academic magazine or academic journal. And any of the papers, the magazine articles that you're reading are similar, but academic writing is a little bit more analytical, and maybe the language and organization, the structure of the articles are a little bit different or a little bit more elevated. So an article, when I use the term article, I just mean that it's an essay that's been published and written by an academic researcher, and that person is an expert in their field, so whatever field that they're studying in. And it's good to find journal articles because the information there is fact-checked. It's gone through a process of peer review. If you just find articles online, like if a Google search and you come and you find this website or this website, it's not always clear who the author is sometimes, or it's not always clear what if that information is accurate or not. Because even on Wikipedia or something like that, people can edit it and change it, and we don't know what their credentials are. So you want to try to find and elevate your search for better information by finding and seeking out journal articles. And you do this throughout your university career. So you'll start, every time you have to write an essay on something, you want to do a little bit of research in what's been written about that topic already. So you might find a couple of different journal articles about that topic and see what other people have written about on that topic already. So articles, they exist in both print and online formats. Usually you access them through your academic library. So you can't just find journal articles through Google searches. You do need to sort of go through specific university databases, or Google Scholar is a good source. So that's sort of Google Scholar allows you to sort of narrow down and just find published articles on the topic rather than a big, broad Google search. For assignment number 1, I've already narrowed down the articles that I want you to read. So you're going to pick one of those articles in the article folder. So I've done sort of part of the work for you in that I've found a couple of articles already, so you don't have to go find anything for yourself at this point anyway. So you just need to pick one of those articles in the article folder and then base writing assignment, your summary paragraph on that article. So pick one of those articles to write your summary on. The next part of the assignment is to, once you've read the article, you've selected the one of the articles in the article folder, you've read it, you maybe read it more than once and highlight key information in it. And then eventually, once you feel like you have a good grasp of what that article is about, you're going to write this summary paragraph. And it's really just one paragraph. It's supposed to be a short, concise explanation of what that article was about. So it's not supposed to be a full-length essay. It's not supposed to be really long and descriptive. It's supposed to be very concise, short, and to the point, just a kind of overview of what that article is about. And you want to make sure that it's short in length. So the article summary itself, the paragraph, should be under 250 words maximum, so under a page in length. And you want to just kind of clarify what the main point or points of the article are. So it kind of depends on which article you selected, but different authors will, write about different topics, and they each sort of try to have a thesis or main idea that unifies their discussion. Some articles are, they include interviews with real people. Some of them analyze texts. Some articles are about an experiment. So each article is kind of doing a different thing. So you need to sort of understand what the point of the article is, what was the purpose of why these authors wrote this, and what was their main ideas or main findings. And your summary of that is supposed to be very sort of clear, concise, short in length, and just help clarify the main point of the article. So when I was when I was a master's student, I worked as a research assistant for one of my professors. And for her research project, she wanted me to sort of help her do research on a certain topic. So I had to find, 100 different articles based, linked in some way to this larger topic that she was studying. And she wanted me to summarize, 100 different articles so she could just read the paragraph and get an idea of what that article was about and whether or not it would be useful for her own research project. So that's kind of the point of these paragraphs, is just so somebody could read your paragraph and get a kind of understanding of what that article is about without reading the full article themselves. And it's sometimes called an abstract, where you have the summary of the article, but this is your writing of what that article is about. So your summary of what you learned in that article. So reading an article, it can be kind of difficult because these are written for professors, for other academics, for grad students and other, undergraduate students. So they do have a kind of language, vocabulary, arguments that are quite sophisticated and elevated. So it's different from just reading a website or something like that. Sometimes the language, you do need to look up words that you maybe don't know the definition of. And to read slowly and carefully so you kind of understand what the article is about. So there are some challenges, but here are some tips or strategies that you can go through when you're reading your article. Look at the title of the article itself, because that'll tell you what the rest of the paper is going to be about. Sometimes the journal article will also have what's called an abstract, and that's their summary of what the article is about, so very helpful. You could also identify what the journal's name, so where was this article published, because sometimes that gives us a little hint of who this article is intended for. You know, if it's published in Nurses Journal or something like that, that tells us that, you know, the intended audience is for nursing students or for people in the healthcare field. So you can kind of get little clues about who would be reading this article from that journal name. You want to read through and look through the different sections of the journal article. So usually there's headings or different sections, and you can find usually bolded headings that say, you know, this is the introduction, discussion, methods, conclusion. So depending on the type of article or type of study that the authors did, you'll have different headings throughout. So you might just want to highlight those as well and sort of make note of, okay, what are they trying to do in this section or paragraph of the paper. The introduction is where, again, they usually set up the topic. They usually include what their research question or research purpose is. In the discussion section, that's usually where they sort of talk about some of the research findings. The methods would, you know, relate to the methods of their study, whether they, you know, did a survey of 100 people and got the results, or what they did for their methodology. And then the conclusion is the important sort of paragraph as well, where they sort of sum up the meaning or point of their research study. So again, you want to make sure that you're looking through the entire article, noting what these headings are, and then maybe taking a couple of notes for each section and trying to understand what that section was communicating. You might not need to understand all of the findings in every single section to understand the paper as a whole. And you won't be able to sort of analyze every single bit and piece or paragraph of the essay in your summary paragraph. So you do need to sort of pick and choose what information is needed in a summary paragraph, where you just want to give the sort of core or gist of what that article is about. I would, you know, pay attention to what topic sentences, concluding sentences say, because usually those are helpful in sort of seeing what the paper is talking about, and reading the conclusion paragraph carefully, because that's where the authors sort of summarize the meaning or what they've want this paper to sort of the contribution that this paper is making to the larger discourse. When I read an article, I usually hold a highlighter pen in my hand and just highlight passages or important parts that I will go back and reread it again. I'll have highlighted passages where I'll be like, oh, okay, that's an important part that I want to make sure that I mention in my summary. So you can, use your highlighter or take little notes on the side of the article itself and put little stars or whatever you want to do, little tabs, just to note to yourself and start organizing or thinking about which parts of the paper you're going to want to summarize or paraphrase or quote from. And I'll have another little lecture about what the difference between quoting and paraphrasing is. So we'll learn a couple of strategies around that as well. So this is an example of a article summary. At the start here, this formatting is wrong, so I'd have to correct this, but this is the MLA style reference that you're going to have to include in your writing assignment number 1. So it tells us the author's names. So there's 2 authors here, which names are, the first name is inverted. So you list last name, comma, first name, and then the second author, in this case, their first name, middle initial, and last name. You include the title of the article. You include the journal name. So this one's environmental toxology. You include the volume number. Usually there's an issue number, but it may or may not have one. You include the date, the page range. So this is a 4-page article. You don't need to include the database for this one. You would need to include the DOI if there is one, or the URL, and the date accessed. So I'll talk more about the MLA style reference in another video, but for now, just know that you do want to include that in this assignment as part of your the necessary sort of tasks that you need to include. And then this is a short summary of what this article is about. And you'll notice it's not very long. It's just a paragraph in length. So the actual article itself is 4 pages, but we need to get that to one little paragraph. So you need to, again, be very decisive about what is included and what is left out. Usually you're going to introduce the authors, sometimes the title, in your first sentence, because you want to make sure that your reader knows that, okay, this is the article I'm talking about. These are the authors. These are their ideas that they discussed in this article. So your job is to sort of just summarize what the author said. Your opinions aren't included in this paragraph. It's always just about reporting what was included in the article. So there's not a lot of interpretation or opinion. This is a very sort of fact report-like style of writing for the summary paragraph. So in this article, the authors, Alonso and Camargo, so Alonso, Camargo, you're using last names, examine how the presence of nitrite impacts certain freshwater invertebrate species such as planaria and amphipods. Okay, so this is a scientific article. The articles that I'm getting you to read are going to be more humanities-based, and I'll talk a little bit more about the articles in another video that I've chosen for you. But this is a science one, so it's going to be about what these two authors learned in their study of freshwater species and how nitrates impact them. So in that first sentence, it's basically summarized what this article is about, and then goes on to sort of explain some of the key findings. They explain how high nitrite concentration in freshwater ecosystems is a result of industrial pollution. Alonso and Camargo 90. So the information in the brackets there is a citation. So this is MLA style citation. That includes the author's last name and the page number where that information is stated. So this is one of the things that is different from writing in high school versus writing in university, is that in university, we want you to cite in brackets the source of where that information has come from when you are explaining an idea. It's also a good idea to just say like who or where you got the information from. So you could say Alonso and Camargo explain, or you could say they explain how, and then cite the article. But referring back to the authors is a good idea within the sentence itself. That's often called a signal phrase. And I'll talk more about those in the quoting paraphrasing video. So an upcoming video. Just to keep going, so to conduct their experiment, Alonso and Camargo collected the species from unpolluted freshwater sources and moved them to aquariums in the laboratory, where they adjusted the nitrite concentrations in the water and monitored the results. They measured the, quote, mortality, pH, water temperature, dissolved oxygen, and nitrate concentration of the different species. So here is a direct quote from the article. So these are the words, the exact words that the authors used in the article. So They are placed in quotation marks, so they enclose the exact words that I've taken and placed in my paragraph, and I've cited the source here, the page number at the end of the sentence. Their results showed that, another quote, mortality increased with nitrite concentrations and exposure times, with amphipods showing the highest sensitivity. So again, if you're quoting directly, you need to place in a citation of where that quote appeared in that article. So if I go and look at the article on page 92, I need to be able to find this quote in that article. So I would use citations and quotes when I am using the exact words, quoting directly, but in some cases you could also use a citation when you're paraphrasing, so using your words but their ideas, when you're paraphrasing something very specific to the article or the source. So it's a good idea to cite, in brackets, whether you're paraphrasing or quoting directly. And that's something students struggle with and get sometimes in trouble for, because they're doing uncited paraphrase when they should be doing cited paraphrase. So we want to see those brackets and attribution to the source. This article sheds light on an important issue of how industrial pollution changes ecosystems and how certain species are at risk as a result of this toxic runoff. So that's basically just a concluding sentence that sums up the meaning or purpose of the article. So altogether, I think that was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences long for that paragraph. So you want to make sure that it is short. You don't necessarily have to do 6 sentences, but you want to keep it maybe under 250 words and be concise in what you're writing about or summarizing. You don't necessarily have to use direct quotes as well. You could do all paraphrase, but I do want to see that you can cite specifically to the page of the source. So I am looking for in-text citations in your summary paragraph. So lastly, just to go over writing assignment number 1, you're going to select one of the articles from the articles folder. You're going to read that article carefully and highlight and make some notes about it, deciding what you want to include or any important quotes or information that you do want to include in your paragraph. You want to read it more than once again, just to get a good sense that you fully understand what this article is about. So it might take more than one read-throughs of the article. You're going to eventually write this short paragraph. So 6 sentences, 7 sentences, a short paragraph under a page in length, summarizing what was discussed in that article. And your paragraph, it'll mention the authors by name. It should include citations in MLA style. And your whole article should also be cited with an MLA style reference. And then eventually, at the very end of this assignment, I'm also going to get you to write a separate paragraph or paragraphs where you respond in a reader response to the article or the topic. And this is where I'm not going to put a page length on this one. You can go as long as you want for the reader response, but it's the summary paragraph that needs to be short and concise and to the point. I'll talk a little bit more about what a reader response is in another video. So for now, we'll just end this video here and make sure that you ask questions if you're not sure of what you should be doing, but you should have an MLA reference, you should have a short summary paragraph, and then you're going to need this reader response paragraph at the end of the assignment as well. So all 3 of those things. Okay, so yeah, be sure to watch the other videos if you want more information about reader response, quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing.